panning the room for like the 8th time. Okay, thank you. My requirement, section 118. 2.2 million people. That is the amount of people that were incarcerated in the United States in 2020. I'm sure some of you may know someone in prison and some of you may not. And while there are many people that deserve to be in prison and deserve to be punished for their crimes and live in these cruel conditions, there are more that don't. So today I wanted to provide you with some information that's going to open your eyes to the conditions of prisons, the conditions that inmates have to live in, and how inmates are set up for failure from the second that they get incarcerated. I wanted to start by telling you a personal story of mine. My dad is in prison. He went to prison when I was 9 years old over a drug charge, a very minor drug charge. At this point, my mom had already passed, so all I had left was my dad, and I was a huge daddy's girl. So when he went to prison, I had to grow up really fast. And I wasn't in the best home condition after he left. So I actually haven't seen my dad in 8 years. In the past year, I turned 18. So I actually was able to go visit him, but with COVID happening and everything, visitations were shut down. So there was nothing that I could do but talk to him on the phone, which of course costed money. So I haven't seen my dad's face in 8 years. Let that sink in. But as I got older, and after I watched Orange is the New Black, of course, I started to ask him questions. What is it like in there? Had he ever seen people get in fights? Was the food good? Was his bed comfy? Did he have friends? Was it actually true that there were gangs in prison? And I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting when I asked him these questions, but the answers that I got were definitely not it. Yes, there's fights all the time. He explained that this was the reason that he wasn't able to call me for weeks at a time because they shut his cell block down and they were unable to use the phones or computers. Yes, there was gangs. He was asked to join them multiple times, but he didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want to get in trouble and get time added to his sentence. No, the food wasn't good. It was horrible, actually. He lost almost 15 pounds because he wasn't eating. No, he didn't have friends. Everybody always got in too much trouble and he didn't want to interject himself into something where he was going to get into trouble. He even told me things that I didn't ask. He told me how inmates had weapons and drugs. He told me how the guards would help bring in this contraband. And he specifically told me, and I quote, "The guards here are more corrupt than the inmates." And I didn't dive any deeper into that response because honestly, I didn't want to know the answer. Are you hearing what I'm saying? These these people are taken from the streets where they can cause harm, and they're put in a giant box with brick walls and bars where the conditions are just as bad, if not worse. Where they're inevitably going to get in trouble with drugs and weapons and contraband floating around, and where the guards aren't even doing their jobs. They aren't protecting the inmates. And you know what this is? Indiana prison systems are privatized. And they're either totally run by private companies or pieces of pie distributed to the highest bidder. It's not about locking bad people up and seeing what they can do to educate and rehabilitate the offenders so that there's a better chance that they don't return. It's more about how many they can lock up and how long that they can keep them there and how much money they can get out of each inmate and out of the federal government. For each year a prisoner is housed, they make about $32,000. A year per inmate. My dad is serving 20, so think about that. And where does this money go? Because it's certainly not going back into the prison. It's not being spent on better housing or better programs. They have a monopoly on everything in prison. Everything, from the phone system to the commissary to the trust fund system. The contracts are all given to the lowest bidder, which in turn provides the worst service, which ultimately pads the administrator's pockets. It's funny, isn't it, how inmates are locked up and they're supposed to be the ones being punished, but the only ones being punished are the family who are sending their loved ones money to just simply survive. Families that are forced to pay ridiculously inflated prices to get anything in prison. Visits, phone calls, commissary, food, hygiene, right down to the $8 cheeseburger that you can buy when you're visiting your loved one. The prison system is ran by greedy politicians that are defrauding the taxpayers and painting a picture that at the very least is deceiving. More like corrupt. It's all about the mighty dollar, not what they can do to try and help with the recidivism rate. Research has consistently shown that rehabilitation services for prisoners do not successfully rehabilitate them. Most inmates are released and returned to prison within a year. Which skyrockets the amount of repeat offenders. And I'm sure you've heard me say that word a few times now, recidivism. Recidivism is a synonym for relapse, but it's used in terms of inmates who repeat or reoffend a crime after already receiving punishment or serving their time. The recidivism rate in Indiana in 2021 is 34%. 34%. The United States has some of the highest recidivism rates in the world. According to the National Institute of Justice, almost 44% of criminals released return before their first year out of prison. And I know you might not think that's a big number, 44%, but with how much prisons talk about rehabilitation and the rehabilitation services that they offer, that number should be 0. Prisoners understand that they have to suffer the consequences of their actions, and I understand that as well, and I'm sure you understand that. But the punishment for offenders is being taken too far. All of their rights are taken away. Their right to vote, their freedom, of course, their voice, hell, even their privacy. Their privacy is taken away. They don't get to shower alone. They're treated like animals in a cage, not like humans, and it's wrong. I shouldn't have to worry about getting a job at 14 years old because my dad calls me and tells me that he doesn't have body wash and that his shoes are hurting his feet because they're 2 sizes too small and he can't afford another pair. When you first get to prison, they provide you with the basic necessities. They give you a pillow, blanket, toothbrush, toothpaste, small thing of shampoo, conditioner, body wash, a pair of shoes, and your uniform. And after these things run out, if you don't have the money, you're out of luck. If you don't have family to send you money, you're out of luck. You're provided food, which like I said before, is often inedible, and you're provided with a place to sleep. After this, you have to figure out the rest on your own. They offer you packages every few months. They offer a hygiene package which often comes with your hygiene products like your shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and it also comes with like t-shirts, underwear, shoes, sweatshirts, another uniform, things like that. And you're also you're offered a food package. And the food package comes with a bunch of food that you're not given at the prison, like stupid things like hot Cheetos and, just snacks like the inmates would want. And if you aren't able to afford these, which most aren't because they're very, very expensive, I would know, I've bought one. I've bought many actually. Then you don't get it. You eat the food that is provided to you. Every inmate is literally fending for themselves, which in turn causes more violence. You steal someone's shampoo or a candy bar if you can't afford your own. It's unbelievable what can happen. I've heard the stories. When you're locked up like animals and treated like animals, it's inevitable that you're going to act like animals, which is going to cause violence. People are going to get hurt. I'm thankful that over the years I've been able to have a job and provide my dad with the things that he needs, but I should not have had to hold a job from 14 to my current age of 19 to be able to do these kinds of things. It's not right. Until someone is able to open the public's eyes about what's really going on in prison systems and what needs to be done differently, the recidivism rate will only increase and the conditions will only worsen. And even if you aren't a person who personally has to experience this, I hope you've heard me out and been convinced enough of how horrible it really is. I know I'm not able to open the public's eyes because I'm only one person, but we all have to start somewhere. So I hope that I have convinced you all enough. Thank you.